from the chefs in Singapore making thousands of in-flight meals, to the team keeping runways clear for takeoff, to handlers training dogs to detect explosives. There are thousands of people working behind the scenes to keep our flights safe and comfortable.
The work never stops because the planes never stop.
We went around the world to see how they train and prevent delays on roughly 100,000 flights every day. Our first stop is Singapore, where we learn how chefs prepare meals for economy, business, and first-class passengers.
This is Singapore Airlines' biggest catering facility, located within Changi Airport. It's run by the airline's catering partner SATS, and while SATS does make food for 45 other carriers, Singapore Airlines is by far its biggest customer.
SIA, to be frank, is a very demanding customer.
Anthony works with SATS to develop hundreds of new menus every year, and creating one dish can take 9 to 12 months.
There's different menus flying in different directions, and different cuisine types, Japanese, Chinese, Singaporean, and obviously Western meals.
The airline runs menus from 77 different departure cities. So if you're leaving Singapore, you'll be offered chicken and rice or a hawker soup. If you're leaving New York City, you'll get a smoked trout salad. And of course, the food changes based on where you're sitting on the plane. In first-class suites, passengers have the most options, from caviar and lobster thermidor to beef tenderloin. In premium economy, flyers have just a couple choices, like this nasi kerabu, because the airline cooks it in bigger batches. No matter the cabin, chefs try to include a protein, vegetable, starch, and a sauce in each dish. Before anyone can get to cooking, they need to suit up. They wash their hands thoroughly and step into this air shower.
To remove hair, dust, and anything which may provide opportunity inside the facility for contamination.
SAT's team of over 1,000 workers handles a lot of food.
Easily, one day we can have about 800 to 1,000 menus running.
They usually start cooking meals 24 to 36 hours before a scheduled flight, and it's all broken down into stations.
It's like a restaurant. You have a salad section, you have a dessert section, you have a hot kitchen. This is just on a much larger scale.
In the premium kitchen, they're grilling meat, like this filet mignon, for the first and business class.
Essentially what we're doing is we're cooking the meal about 30-40%.
If they cook the meat all the way through now, it would be really overcooked by the time it got onto the plane. So chefs depend on flight attendants who finish cooking it in the air.
They just apply residual heat of about 150, 160 degrees in our aircraft ovens.
Over in the hot kitchen, cooks handle, well, all the hot food for first, economy, and business class.
Vegetables, pasta, noodles, rice, noodles, hot meals, soups and sauces.
This is some heavy-duty batch cooking. Chefs boil noodles in giant vats. Tomato sauce gets its own tank and is pumped out into these cooling trays from the bottom. And as with the meat, chefs aren't cooking everything all the way.
So a lot of these are what we call 50-60% finished.
Even vegetables.
It's a little bit like a pasta. We want it to be al dente. So you can see there it has a little bit of firmness, a little bit of bite. So if we break that, we still get some snap. So as it cools, the meals will continue, or the food will continue to cook until it reaches the core temperature that we need to achieve for food safety.
Every tray along the way gets a tracking label. That way, if there's any issue with food sickness on a flight, the airline can trace it back to the exact batch.
We also want to maintain the integrity and the color of the leaf green. So we cook it in the hottest possible water, 100 degrees. We cook it for the shortest amount of time as possible.
Once the food comes off the heat, it immediately heads down this conveyor belt to the blast chiller. That stops the cooking process in its tracks. Some things, though, are totally cooked through, like these omelets on this rotating table. The eggs come pre-cracked in a liquid mixture. A pump squirts the perfect amount into each pan. Chefs stationed around the table cook, flip, fold, and stack every omelet.
We're producing here 6,000-7,000 omelets per day minimum. So omelets is mostly for the economy kitchen.
Once all the elements are cooked, most of the way through, they head to this room.
So this is what we call casserole assembly for economy meals and also business class and some first class meals.
This is where they pack all the food into the foil containers you might have seen in flight.
Normally from the time they take the meal components from the fridge, within 35-45 minutes, they have to have put the meal into the tray.
Anthony gives chefs photos to show them how each dish is supposed to look. Flight attendants get a similar picture to follow for plating.
Because we have around 6,500-7,000 cabin crew, and there's only one of me, I can't be every day at the training college showing the cabin crew, so we do this for consistency.
One by one, workers pile on starches, sauces, meats, and vegetables. Here's that pasta we saw cooking earlier. They each get a foil topper and then are carted into a holding fridge.
That's where basically the packing team goes a little bit like a supermarket where you pick and mix.
Chefs assemble the desserts in a different room. Today they're making floating islands, a dessert with a meringue suspended in creme anglaise. All these dishes look great on the ground, but there's one big problem. Food can taste different in the air. On some planes, your taste buds are about 30% less sensitive to sweet and salty foods. That's because of the pressure, dryness, and engine sound. In the older 777s and A320s, the cabin is pressurized up to 8,000 feet, so it feels like you're eating lunch on Machu Picchu. And humidity on board can sit as low as 12%, less than some deserts. When you have a dry mouth and a worsened sense of smell, foods can be twice as bland. So historically, that meant airlines loaded on salt for you to even taste the food, sometimes leaving passengers feeling bloated. But in new planes, manufacturers are making conditions on board easier on your body. In the A350s, A380s, and 787 Singapore Airlines flies, cabins are pressurized up to 6,000 feet. So instead of Machu Picchu, it feels like you're eating dinner in Denver. And because new planes are made of more carbon fiber, it's possible to increase humidity to about 24%.
When you have more moisture in the cabin space, your sinuses and your body is not dehydrating as quickly. And your taste and your palate is not as, influenced.
So flyers can taste a lot more these days, making it easier on chefs like Anthony.
There's no additional salt, pepper, no additional salt.
Anthony can use this room to simulate a pressurized cabin and test how food will taste in the sky. And to address that bloating issue, he uses ingredients like
Turmeric reduces swelling in your body, inflammation, right? So you're feeling a lot more comfortable. Ginger is also for sleep and rest and relaxation.
which leaves just one more hurdle: reheating the food. Flight attendants only have small ovens to work with on board. So how do chefs make sure their food still tastes good? Well, cooking halfway and moving quickly helps. And they avoid dishes that don't travel well.
We try not to do things that are deep fried, for example. Chicken wings, it doesn't stay crispy, and none of us really like to bite into soft French fries.
They also stay away from thin fish, like sea bass.
A fish which is a bit thicker, a cod, a salmon, they stand up much better to in-flight experience.
After all the meals are assembled, the food finally meets up with the carts you see on board.
So we have here the tray assembly area.
Elevators bring clean trays, cutleries, and dishes upstairs.
The silverware elevator?
Yeah, it's like it's a deluxe ride, for your cutlery.
Chefs work on an assembly line, picking and placing
All the napkins, all the porcelain, the linenware, the knives, forks, everything right through to the salt, pepper shakers and the butter portions.
This is a dinner service for business class.
And then they'll put the appetizer, so the appetizer is always preset on a supper service. They'll put a lid on it, they'll put the dressing on the side, and then it will get packed into the carts.
It's the same process for economy class, just the tableware, like the food, isn't quite as fancy.
That cart is packed with all the meals inside. It has a label tag, it says what flight number it is, what destination, what meal service it should be.
This helps cabin crew know what's inside the carts without having to open them.
If you open it up, that document there will correspond with what meal goes inside. So here we have porcelain, here we have the glassware, and then that will correspond then with the meal types that come in from the meal packing side.
Those carts take a ride on another elevator and will be loaded onto flights usually within an hour before takeoff. Every team along the process has to move extremely fast because all the food has to be cooked, assembled, and eaten in flight within 72 hours.
So we never want to exceed 72 hours in terms of food processing.
If the team goes over that time limit by just an hour, they exceed food safety requirements and can't serve those meals anymore.
This meal will be on a plane tonight. Okay? So this production probably occurred yesterday.
It all moves so fast because at the end of the day, they've got a flight to catch.
Every time a plane lands, each tire leaves around 1.5 pounds of rubber on the runway. Tires are stationary until touchdown, when sudden contact with the ground causes friction, quickly bringing them up to speeds of more than 150 miles per hour and producing temperatures around 500 degrees Fahrenheit. That temperature makes the tread rubber melt and bond to the runway and lights that guide pilots. The Airbus A380 is the largest passenger plane in the world, and it has 22 tires. That's over 30 pounds of rubber lost per landing, equivalent to the amount of rubber in 2 of your car's tires. So how does all of that rubber get removed, and what's so dangerous about it building up on runways?
There is 2 things you need to consider when we're talking rubber removal from the runway. There's the rubber removal from the actual tarmac itself, but the other process is to remove the rubber from the lights.
At London's Heathrow Airport, where Mohammed works, an average of 650 planes with 10 tires each touch down every single day. That's 10,000 pounds of rubber daily. A buildup in rubber can make the surface of a runway smooth, decreasing the friction needed to land. This can impact braking and control and increase the risk of hydroplaning in wet conditions. And runway lights, used to guide takeoff, landing, and taxiing, especially at night and in low visibility conditions, are dimmed by the melted rubber bonding to them. Within the United States, the Federal Aviation Administration recommends that rubber deposition be checked weekly for any airport with at least 210 daily landings. The process for checking rubber buildup isn't as simple as checking for skid marks, and it requires the use of specialized tests and instruments.
So for the runway, we have something called a friction test. It's like a machine that has a wheel, and someone will drive down the runway and that wheel will come down and it'll actually measure how much friction there is on the runway. The key to a runway is you want it to have a lot of friction. You don't want it to be slippery at all. So that measurement of how much friction that wheel feels on the surface of the runway will tell our teams when to go out there to remove the rubber. Now, to do that, we have specialized machinery, which is like a massive truck with a hoover on top of it. And so it's high pressure water, basically, but very hot. And it blasts the tarmac, and then it just sucks up everything that comes off it.
And then there's removal of rubber from the lights. Landing technology alone isn't enough for pilots to bring planes in safely.
Of course, they use ILS systems, they use the instrument landing system when coming into land, but they still need a visual reference. So from a safety perspective, the pilots physically won't be able to see those lights. And I once spoke to a pilot who was flying in from Scandinavia, and I remember I always go to the pilots and speak to them about this stuff afterwards because I want to get their perspective. And I said to him, what's it like to fly a plane at an airport and land a plane at an airport which doesn't maintain its lights very well? He said, it's like trying to fly a plane into a black hole. So for the lights themselves, we do a test where we measure how much light output comes out of the lights. So we have this trailer that hooks onto the back of a car, and the sensors on the back of this trailer will tell you exactly how much light is coming out of every single light. And then you get all that data and you can tell which lights have rubber on them. So the lights are really important and they need to be bright. So to do that, we have another machine which uses dry soda, and it has somebody on the back with a lance, and they go from one light to another and they point this thing at it and they shoot powder, this soda powder, at the actual lens of the light, and they get rid of all the rubber that is on those lights.
From when the last plane takes off at night to when the first plane takes off in the morning, there's a small window of time.
Our runways need to close, so we need to wait till the last plane departs, and then after the last plane departs, that's when our teams can come on. So if you wanted to clean every single light on the runway, you can't really do it all in one night because there's that many of them. So for the lights themselves, we remove it at least twice per week. This is something that people don't ever really think about, but there's a whole team of people whose responsibility it is to make sure that these runways are clear. And actually people benefit from this job all the time, because the only way that they're able to go on holiday and enjoy the world is by using these strips of tarmac called the runways.
This is Bach, an explosives detection canine for the Transportation Security Administration, or TSA.
Ready? Go seek.
Personally, I feel if my dog screened that person, that I would put myself, my family, or my mom on that plane. My dog is that good that nothing has come past him.
Every day, Bach and his handler, Gary, will screen between 3,000 and 4,000 passengers for explosives at Philadelphia International Airport. But before Bach and Gary started working together as an explosives detection team,
Very good. Feather, feather. Nice.
they spent 16 weeks training here at the TSA Canine Training Center at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. The TSA National Explosives Detection Canine Program graduates more than 300 dogs and more than 150 handlers every year. They train in mock airplanes and airport terminals, where they learn crucial techniques they'll have to master before graduating.
There is nothing more effective out there in all of TSA's arsenal. A well-trained dog team is truly a force multiplier that really combats terrorism.
There are more than 1,000 TSA canine teams deployed nationwide. The starting pay for a handler is about $43,000 a year.
So the first thing where we start is teaching the dog the basic fundamentals of how to use their nose to find something. And luckily for us, dogs already naturally do that. So we just manipulate the environment so we can tap into their natural abilities.
One of those environments is a mock wide-body aircraft, similar to one that they might encounter in the real world. Uzi, a 2-year-old Belgian Malinois, was around 20 days into training. The dogs are first taught to search for their favorite toy and are rewarded once they find it.
Oh, you got it. Good man. You got it, puppy. You got it.
Again, we buy these dogs for drive. That dog is going to want that toy.
Oh, good man. Good man. Good man. So as you can see, we're just kind of using the reward to shape the behavior, getting him used to going in, searching the rows.
About 160 dogs are in training at any given time, and they come in all shapes and sizes.
Through years of trials and tribulations, we have honed in on essentially 7 different breeds. So you have your Belgian Malinois, your German Shepherds. We also have the Labrador Retrievers, the German Short-Hair Pointers, the Vizslas, those type of dogs. And we found that they have the innate ability, both cognitively and with their olfactory, that we have a lot of positive results with those specific breeds.
Hupsy, hupsy.
As the dogs progress, trainers introduce training aids filled with explosive materials and reward the dogs for finding them.
Good boy.
This dog, Poopy, a 2-year-old German short-haired pointer, was 70 days into training. Through repeated exercises, the dogs learn that detecting the odor earns them their toy and begin searching for the odor itself.
We condition them that this piece that you're looking for means a whole lot, and we use the toy to do that. So as the dog's going through and they're searching and sniffing, when they catch that odor or that scent, their body reacts as if we just gave them a toy. So we teach our dogs what's called a passive final response. So once they have worked and located something, we teach them to either go into a sit or a down.
Ooh, good man.
The roots of the program date back to March 7th, 1972, when a bomb threat was called in on a TWA flight right after it took off from JFK International Airport, forcing the plane to turn around and land.
A team through the New York Police Department trained to detect explosives happened to be at JFK at the same time. This canine named Brandy went onto the aircraft, conducted a search, and alerted to what looked to be a pilot's briefcase adjacent to the cockpit. Explosive ordnance disposal came in, grabbed the briefcase, and disarmed it 12 minutes before it exploded.
That same day, President Nixon ordered the creation of the FAA Explosives Detection Canine Team, which was transferred to the TSA following its creation in response to the terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001.
And through the years, we have continued to grow as a program.
Today, the TSA trains its dogs to be able to detect dozens of different scents based on recent intelligence.
Unfortunately, we're unable to specifically speak to the quantities of explosives that these dogs are trained to find, but we want them to be super good at specific explosives based on the threat.
Good puppy, good puppy. I like it, puppy.
After 6 to 8 weeks of working with the trainers, the dogs are introduced to their future handlers, whom they'll finish the program with. Handlers in training come from across the country and must meet certain criteria in order to be accepted into the program.
I'll tell you, it's very competitive to get into canine because there's a lot of responsibility.
Seeing our dogs at our airport, what they were capable of doing, and I was in awe. And so I started researching up on them and found out that's definitely what I wanted to partake as my next step in my career.
Handlers get paired with a dog 3 to 4 weeks into their training.
We try to get to know our students in and out, and we also know our dogs and what their abilities are. They have to be able to rely on each other. If you don't have a good pairing between the dog and the handler, it's just not going to work.
This is Ubel. He is a 2-year-old German Shepherd. He's a rambunctious man, but he's a cool partner to work with.
Jessica and Ubel are part of the TSA's 16-week passenger screening course, which is 5 weeks longer than the traditional explosives detection course.
Remember the feather. Walk straight. Don't let him walk you at an angle. Walk straight. Hold your ground, hold your ground. Walk straight. Very good.
Working in a simulated airport terminal complete with actors posing as bystanders, K9 teams practice screening passengers for explosive odors that have been placed on certain role players.
Basically, we have the personnel come through a line. We call it cutting wakes. So the dog will cut past the person left and right and hopefully pick up whatever odor that they're trained on. All right, about to bring your odor in. Once they encounter the odor they're trained on, the handler will turn around and follow the dog and reward the dog for good behavior. Let it feather. Let it feather, feather. Speed up, Fred. All right, cheer him up, praise him up. Doing well on training, I look for 2 things. I look for the drive of the dog. Is the dog able to commit to follow the person that has whatever it is trained to detect? And then I watch the handler's hands. Is the handler holding the dog back, or is the handler releasing the leash to allow the dog to proceed? You control this. If he's standing out here and you're not ready, hold my line, please. Flip him back around, get him how you want him. Release line, and then do your thing. The most common mistake is the leash control. You walk in your household dog on a leash, you let the dog be a dog, do whatever you want. But when you're doing this type of training with the dog on leash, it's a balance of when to have control and when not to have control. Nice work, nice work. Good hit. They did outstanding. Again, this is on day 13. They've been on these 2 dogs for 13 days, and to be able to allow the dog to read that behavior is very good.
Handlers and their dogs graduate and are deployed as a team, so their ability to work together is crucial.
It's definitely a lot of fun seeing it click for the dog and watch them learn along with you or with me. So it's been a really cool experience.
The dogs receive 24 to 32 weeks of training, and roughly 90% of all K9 teams graduate from the course. Once they do, they'll be deployed to one of the many mass transit sites across the United States.
Ready to go work?
Like Gary Sturley and Bach.
Go work, bud. See?
The team graduated from the TSA K9 Training Center in 2016 and have been working at the Philadelphia International Airport ever since.
Bach is a 9-year-old flat-coated retriever shepherd mix. He's a goofball. He's a character. He definitely has a lot to say to everybody. He loves people. He loves the job. He wakes up every morning ready to go. He has found ammunition. He has found a few things. That's really as far as I can go.
Ready? Go seek. Good.
When we're working together, I'm focusing on making sure he is productively sniffing the wake of passengers. So as they're going by, the odor coming off of a passenger, the odor plume is coming behind and dropping down to the ground. So I'm just watching him, watching his nose and his head, looking for subtle changes that might indicate that he's picking up on something.
The team also performs daily training exercises.
Good boy, go find it. Where is it? Huh? Where is it?
So today we had a decoy. So we put a training aid on the decoy, sent the decoy in with passengers, dog pinpoints it.
Good boy.
Good job, buddy! Thank you, Maya. Good job! What you got? What you got? Box change of behavior can range depending on the day, but when he starts spinning around in a circle when we're working, he's onto something, he wants to go find it. To the dog, it's all the same. It's a giant game to the dog. As long as they think they're gonna get their reward, they'll go anywhere you tell them to go. Box, part of my family, comes home, he's with me 24 hours a day. Even when we go on vacation and he's in the kennel, I'm calling the kennel to make sure he's okay.
Stay seated.
Evacuate. Evacuate.
Seatbelt. Leave everything. Bad exit. Go back.
You could have no obstruction, no fire, no water, go to open your exit, and it doesn't work. It's jammed. A lot of the times I think the perception is that we're waitresses in the sky.
First and foremost, we are safety professionals. Anything that can happen on the ground can happen in the air. Come this way, leave everything.
My name's Patrice Hillis.
And my name is Trillany Bundridge. My nickname is Trill. We're here to show you what it takes to be a Delta Airlines flight attendant.
A lot of magic happens down here in the training center.
Over 195,000 applications come into Delta Airlines, and of those, 3,000 for this year alone will get to come through these doors and be a Delta Airlines flight attendant. Initial flight attendant training is 6 weeks of intense training. They start here in week 1 and they learn about the foundations of Delta Airlines. And then we go to week 3, and those are non-phase specific things like security, emergency management, medical situations that could happen on board the aircraft. And then week 6 is all about customer service. And so within those 6 weeks, we have a fully rounded Delta Airlines flight attendant who is ready to go out there on any aircraft. This area is what we call our mock-up areas, and these are aircraft that have been cut out from the desert. They've shipped them here, and our flight attendants go into these mock-ups and they practice different types of scenarios.
A lot of what we do is very customer service driven.
Flight attendants are able to balance that customer service piece as well as being mindful of any type of emergency situation that could happen on board the aircraft. Studio is where we have all of our doors, windows, tail cone exits.
I'll talk through an evacuation here. After we've boarded the aircraft and we're ready to go, Trell is gonna arm this door, which means if we open the door armed, we're going to get slide deployment. When we practice our evacuation, we want the door to be armed. All right, Trell, you ready?
No pressure.
No pressure. Here we go.
Freeze. 4. Landing.
Bend over. Stay down. Stay seated. Stay seated.
She's thinking about her commands, where her exits are. She's thinking about how to operate those exits, where her emergency equipment is. She's also thinking about people that got on board that could help her in an emergency.
You, help at the bottom. You, help at the bottom.
And she's also going to think about the people that got on who might need her assistance. We do want thinking flight attendants. We do operate with a lot of checklists, but in the end, sometimes things come down to a judgment call. We travel to different time zones, different countries, and maybe we can't sleep. And then you're expected to make good judgment calls, and you're expected to remember all your training and respond to emergencies and be Delta gracious and patient and all of that on lack of sleep as well sometimes. We're going to head to our motion-based trainer. It is our one and only trainer that does shake, does move.
Our flight attendants have a week of training for emergencies that could happen on board the aircraft and learning our different types of commands. This is one of them.
Evacuate. Evacuate.
Seatbelt. Leave everything. Bad exit. Go back.
Come this way, leave everything, jump and slide.
If you don't stay calm, then your anxiety will feed off of that person. It's definitely important to make sure you stay calm. Now, welcome to our ditching mock-up. We have a 767 mock-up, and the flight attendants have on their life vests, and they jump right in. And they work together as a team to handle ditching, getting into a raft, helping each other stay warm while they're waiting for rescue.
We like to take flight attendants, train them in these particular scenarios with the hope that they can take that knowledge and transfer it out to a real live aircraft. And when those situations happen in real life, their training kicks in. One of our most common emergencies is medical emergencies.
When there's someone who has a heart attack in the aisle, I know where the medical equipment is on board the aircraft, and I'm fully able to handle those types of situations.
Are you okay? Are you okay? I'm Patrice, I'm a flight attendant, I can help. Typically on the aircraft, there would be 3 of us involved in this scenario. There would be an assessor, a collector, and a communicator. I was the assessor. Trell was my collector. She brought me my equipment, and then she stayed with me the whole time. The third person that we would usually have is our communicator. Communicator is going to be talking to the flight deck. They're going to be paging for medical assistance. They're going to be trying to get in touch with StatMD. They're going to be filling out our medical assistance form or helping us do that in some way. Clear?
Stop now.
Clear?
Do not touch the patient.
Anything that can happen on the ground can happen in the air. So we have to be mindful of always being gracious, but in the back of our mind, always thinking of the other things that could possibly happen on board the aircraft, and knowing that we're fully trained to handle any type of situation. Flight attendants have to maintain a 90% average within the 6 assessments that they take.
But once a flight attendant leaves and graduates and is a flight attendant flying out there on the line, their training isn't over. We have something called continuing qualification, and that is where flight attendants that are qualified and out there flying have to re-qualify every 18 months. They come back to training and they do have to be proficient in their door evacuations, in their EMV scenarios, CPR, security. We do hold them to a pretty high standard.
And so being calm, being patient is something that we learn and we also give feedback on, so that when they are on the line as an active flight attendant, they're able to handle any situation.
Y'all like that now, don't you? You don't feel good about that.
Each year, more than 180,000 flights take off for Emirates Airline, carrying about 60 million passengers. And the people in charge of all those travelers on board? The 21,000 flight attendants and pursers that make up Emirates cabin crew. It's a pretty sweet gig. Free housing in Dubai, discounted tickets, and getting paid to travel the world. But with long hours and busy schedules, the job is not always as glamorous as you'd think. Here's what it's like to be a flight attendant for Emirates.
My name is Siti Nurazlin, and I am a first-class crew working for Emirates.
Like the 200,000 applicants a year, CT had to meet the airline's qualifications. A minimum age of 21 years old, a height of at least 5'2", an arm reach of about 7 feet on tiptoes to reach those overhead bins, fluency in English, at least a high school degree, and no visible tattoos when in uniform. Just like every other new hire, CT started her Emirates career at the bottom, in economy on short-haul flights. And through the years, she's worked her way up to first class. Today, she crews an average of 9 long-haul flights a month. Her schedule changes every week, but she's always on flights that last anywhere from 6 to 16 hours. And for a lot of that time, CT is on her feet. She estimates about 11 hours out of a 16-hour flight.
The job could be quite challenging physically, so we need to maintain our physique and also be quite fit.
But thankfully, she's not in heels the whole time.
We do change our uniform after takeoff, so we get to put on our flats because the high heels won't get really comfortable in 16 hours. And we change into our waistcoat.
CT is also required to look the part.
Usually we keep to a natural makeup, like eyeliner and mascara usually is a must. And the Emirates red lipstick, definitely.
And just like makeup, hairstyles, jewelry, and nails are also pretty strict. As for jewelry, they can wear diamond or pearl stud earrings, but no necklace. And their nails have to be clean, with either a nude or red polish or a French manicure. Now these requirements are for female flight attendants. Males have to be clean-shaven and style their hair with minimal product. But there's an added level of responsibility for first-class attendants like CT. For starters, she knows who the regular flyers are and what they like.
We do have information on our customers, so on every flight we will observe the preferences and the likes and dislikes of the customers, so we get to write it down for future flights. For example, like pajama size or their preferred drinks. So the more someone flies with Emirates, the more we can cater to the personal preference.
She's also required to have an expert understanding of the entire first-class menu. She knows options for passengers with dietary restrictions, the perfect wine pairing for dishes, and the tasting notes of 60 cheeses. And since she's typically serving international travelers, CT is a master at communicating across different backgrounds. But she's not the only one. Like most of the cabin crew, CT knows more than one language. For her, it's English and Malay. But there are over 60 languages spoken across Emirates cabin crew, and a staff of 140 nationalities. Now on board, CT's duties are pretty standard. Do a safety check of the plane before passengers board, provide food and drink service during the flight, and go through the cabin after everyone deboards. But off the plane, the perks of the job are substantial. Flight attendants get a base pay, depending on experience, with an hourly rate stacked on top. Starting out, that equals about $32,000 a year. Plus, they get free housing in Dubai, not far from the airport. They get 30 vacation days, 1 free flight a year, and can nominate friends and family for discounted tickets.
The perks of this job especially would be the concessionary tickets that we get, and not just for me, but for my family and friends as well. So I don't really have to travel on my own or travel with just my crew friends. I can travel with my friends who are not flying as well.
For the veteran and first-class flight attendants, they even get to staff events like the US Open or make special appearances. But the best part? Layovers in 161 cities worldwide, with accommodations and meals covered.
Ardell 2452, continue Juliet Mike to Lima Charlie. Monitor the tower 123.85.
400 feet above Atlanta Hartsfield Airport, air traffic controllers oversee the skies of the world's busiest airport. Firing off commands to pilots,
Delta 393 Atlanta ground runway 27 right taxi via Lima, hold short of taxiway Dixie.
they juggle 2,600 landings and departures a day, in all kinds of weather.
You can go upstairs and you can look out of that window and you can see nothing at all and still have movement taking place on your airport.
But air traffic controllers can't mess up. Not only are lives on the line, but
This is the ultimate in domino effects. If something's going wrong in Atlanta, or if there are major delays, it disrupts air travel all throughout the country and parts of the world.
back in February, before COVID was named a pandemic, Rally took us up inside the tallest control tower in the country to see what it really takes to be an air traffic controller. This is Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, and these are its 5 runways. And here's the control tower. It takes a rotating staff of 58 traffic controllers to keep the airport running. Pre-pandemic, they directed 909,000 flights through takeoff and landing each year. These controllers are responsible for any planes inside Atlanta Hartsfield airspace, 5 miles out and 4,000 feet above the airport. Once a plane enters Atlanta's territory, air traffic controllers are in charge of communicating with pilots over radio. They direct pilots in the air through safe landings and pilots on the ground through takeoffs. The goal?
Efficiency, efficiency, efficiency. What can you do to help us be more efficient? Well, the one thing that we're not going to do is make sure that you compromise safety in that equation.
But the job isn't easy.
There's a lot of dynamic decisions. If an aircraft is coming into land and they have to go around because of an unstable approach, the weather didn't cooperate, they couldn't get the runway in sight, you have to be ready to make a decision.
To become a fully qualified controller, it can take up to 5 years of classroom, simulator, and on-the-job training. But if they make it, the average controller in Georgia makes $145,000 a year. A job in Atlanta's tower is one of the most coveted ATC positions in the U.S. Candidates go through a rigorous hiring process, which can take
Somewhere just under a year, we're getting closer to 6 to 9 months.
Once they've been hired, incoming controllers start on the simulator.
So any new controller that would come here, they would initially come here and do book work, and then follow it up with the book work, they would come in the simulator room.
A new controller will do multiple pass-fail scenarios, but on the simulator, they'll have fewer planes to juggle than the real deal in the tower.
Then they'll have an evaluation, and then if they pass that evaluation, they can head up to the towers.
We have 2 controllers working there today. One of them is in training. There's never really a slow period to speak of.
Though air traffic always picks up in the summer and days before and after holidays. But whether it's Christmas Eve or just another Tuesday, controllers have to stay focused.
I don't know that we want people to be comfortable. We want people to be on edge. We want people to be at the top of their game.
Controllers have to remember and monitor up to 30 planes at once. That's a lot to think about, especially since studies show the human brain can only handle 7 things in short-term memory at a time.
I had about 25 to 30 aircraft all on my frequency. At one time, they're all taxiing out for departure. But once I said, monitor the tower 123.85, that's when they got off my frequency. So, at one time you could have a lot, then 1 minute later it could be all gone.
The job's so mentally draining that the Federal Aviation Administration allows controllers to work for only 2 hours before they're required to take a break. To help make their work easier, controllers' jobs in the tower are highly specific. Each runway is assigned either takeoff or landings.
That controller is just focused on that runway, that specific runway and that specific runway only.
The controller who clears planes for takeoff or landing is called the local controller. There are 2 or 3 of them in the tower at once.
This gentleman's working what we call Local 5, and Local 5 is handling at the moment all the arrival aircraft coming in from the east.
Then there's the ground controller. This guy focuses on directing traffic on the ground, telling planes which runway to taxi to. So in the case of an approach and landing, it might start with the local control saying this to the pilot.
It'll be Delta 222, runway 8 left, wind calm, clear to land. We'll turn it over to the ground controller as they exit. Delta 222, contact ground 119.2. They'll go over to ground control. Ground control will tell them which direction to taxi to get them over to the ramp.
Controllers have universal rules to follow to make sure everyone is safe. First, there's the lingo.
All right, 1123, taxi ramp, keep moving, traffic behind you, have a good day.
The international language for air traffic control is English.
They also have special terminology so no two words will get confused.
Runway 27 right, follow southwest.
The guys at Chicago O'Hare or PDK or Atlanta Tower say the same things for most of our control instructions. It doesn't deviate, and that consistency is what helps us keep communications down to a minimum.
Minimal talking is important because every plane and every controller share the same radio frequency.
353, follow 737 ahead.
And they're all in the same telephone call, 15 airplanes here in Atlanta.
Short calls aren't the only way controllers ensure efficiency. These strips help the controllers keep track of all the planes moving through that process. Each one represents a plane. It has the flight number, the airline, the city the plane's going to or coming from, and the departure or arrival time.
Once the flight plan is generated at its proposed time, as you've seen right here, these will print out. This flight Delta 1904 is an international flight. It's going from Atlanta down to Marigot, so Delta 904. And this aircraft here is a Boeing 757-200. This airplane is scheduled to depart at 1542 Zulu. When he departs, he's requesting to go to 37,000 feet. So this strip would then, once it's ready, they place it in one of these strip holders. So you'd find the Delta 904, which is at Echo 9. They place Echo 9 on here and slide it to the appropriate side.
A controller will have 4 or 5 of these strips active at once. This is how they sequence the planes in order of priority.
The passenger doesn't see the bigger picture. The pilot thinks, I've been sitting here, why? The reason why he's holding is because we're trying to provide that sequence so that we can get maximum capacity out at one time.
Sequencing can help move planes along quicker, but how exactly does it work? Here's an example. If 2 planes are going the same direction, say to San Antonio and Houston, they have to be at least 4 miles apart, so they don't run into each other in the sky, which means time waiting between takeoffs. But if a controller alters the sequence using those strips...
So in this case, this is a west, a north, and a west. This aircraft's going to San Antonio, this aircraft's going to Milwaukee, and this aircraft's going to Houston. So we can depart 6,000 feet down the runway and airborne and roll these.
That Milwaukee flight can take off right behind the San Antonio flight, and now they've had 3 planes take off in the same amount of time.
It makes a big difference for the ground controller to actually provide a good sequence because it's efficient and the aircraft could keep going at the fastest rate, and that's what we do, and that's our job.
Efficiency means fewer delays.
If there are major delays, it disrupts air travel all throughout the country and parts of the world.
In 2018, Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport was ranked the best airport in the U.S. for flight delays, with the highest percentage of on-time departures.
15 airplanes, we're looking at a minute behind one another, so it's not bad, 15 minutes.
But of course, some things are out of their control.
You can go upstairs and you can look out of that window and you can see nothing at all and still have movement taking place on your airport. Then there's days like today, clear in a million, that's what we call it, when it's just a beautiful sunshine day and you can see forever. We can move a whole bunch of airplanes. It's 132 an hour, I believe, is our arrival rate max. On a typical day, we try to stay right around in the 120s.
Controllers also have to contend with inclement weather. Sometimes planes can't land on their first attempt, so they'll have to pull up, circle back, and get in line to land again.
You have to be ready to make a decision. How am I going to get this airplane back up into the air, back over to the next air traffic control facility so that they can resequence them back into our pattern?
Luckily, some technological advancements have made this whole process a lot easier. Remember those strips?
So a lot of this is automated now.
While controllers may still use the physical strips, they also show up on monitors and are automatically sent over to the next controller in the sequence. Also, technology means weather isn't as debilitating as it once was.
There used to be a time when weather would shut your airport down.
But now,
being able to forecast and project when that weather's coming, we're not surprised like we used to be.
We go in the cloud sometimes and that's when our equipment is all we got.
ASDX, radar, and GPS positioning help controllers track a plane.
We're able to use that technology now to actually separate and identify where those airplanes are legitimately, so we can use the term clear for takeoff even though we can't see the physical runway any longer.
But all that technology doesn't mean these controllers can be any less diligent. They have to be focused and undistracted nonstop. This is the busiest airport in the world.
The number, the volume, I don't think many airports can handle what we do. That's the truth.
Electrostatic spraying is the first step in Delta's cleaning process after an aircraft lands. They apply this revamped procedure to all 3,800 daily flights across the world. But it's not easy, as sometimes they only have about 30 minutes in between flights to spray the cabin and wipe every surface. We followed the Delta cleaning crew for a day to see what goes into sanitizing a plane before a flight. Since passengers are in close quarters, airplanes are normally considered high-risk transmission areas.
Our challenge is now, I think, continue to just be restoring the customer's confidence. I think we're making headway, but I think there's still a long way to go.
It all starts with the uniform. Workers suit up to protect themselves from the charged sanitizer and the virus itself. The liquid held in a backpack-like container is a disinfectant approved by the Environmental Protection Agency, and it's similar to Clorox. It can kill any pathogens, including coronaviruses that are lingering in the air or stuck on a surface. Delta Airlines implemented this process in February.
I think we very quickly pivoted from feeling a sense of loss to feeling a sense of challenge.
How long it takes to clean depends on the size of the plane. The larger ones can take at least an hour or more. And if the flying crew doesn't feel safe, they can ask for another cleaning.
Anyone can be involved to inspect the aircraft for cleanliness, and anyone has the ability to raise their hand and say, the airplane's not clean, we can't board.
I already have my boarding pass, I just need to get the A14. Okay. There's also a new process at check-in. There is plexiglass between employees and passengers. Delta contractors wipe every touchscreen after a person uses it. Flight attendants have changed their routines too.
As I lead my crews and I do my briefing, I try to let them know that the perception of cleanliness is everything. It's not enough for us to go in there and clean the restrooms if the passengers don't see us doing it. We want you to see that we're going in there every 30 minutes and we're checking those labs. We're wiping down all surfaces. We're serving you with gloves. We're offering you Purell wipes. We're doing so many different things for your safety.
They offer passengers a Ziploc bag with water, snacks, and hand sanitizer. Middle seats are blocked to separate passengers. Delta says air on the aircraft recirculates every 2 to 6 minutes through industrial-grade HEPA filters with similar performance to those used in operating rooms. Since March, the airline industry has been hit hard. Before the pandemic, around 2 million passengers a day flew nationwide on about 25,000 flights. After the pandemic, the number of passengers dropped to under 1 million, and the number of domestic flights went down to about 9,000 flights a day.
As part of Delta's commitment to the care and well-being of our customers and employees, we are taking the following extra steps to promote a safe and healthy flight.
Many airlines laid off a lot of their staff. Delta says it has not had furloughs, but made some employees take unpaid leave.
When you think about March 11th, using that as a benchmark, I think we were operating close to 200 flights that day. And by the end of April, we were down to 12 here at JFK.
Flights have increased since May, but the number of passengers remains under 1 million for the most part.
It's going to be a long recovery, and it's going to be a choppy recovery. And I think part of that is because we will continue to see ebbs and flows of the virus.
It's estimated that more than 100,000 workers have left the airline industry since the pandemic started, and entire companies like ExpressJet Airlines have also vanished. Flight attendant Richard Brown says he feels lucky to have his job, even if he faces the risk of getting sick.
Coming back, I was kind of apprehensive, but I was also ready to come back because I had been sitting at my house in lockdown for several months at that time. So I was kind of anxious and I was antsy and I was ready to go back.
The new cleaning routines have offered him some relief and confidence.
I've never felt safer, and that's because of everything that we're doing. There's been such an attention to detail now. And it's not that there wasn't an attention to that detail before, but there's a renewed focus on cleanliness.
There is some evidence that flying may not be as dangerous as we initially believed. Studies have found that as long as passengers wear a mask, flying can be safer than grocery shopping. But take those studies with a grain of salt, since many have been funded by the airline industry. And there are also risks of transmission at the airports when people are standing at security or check-in lines. And most airlines don't require people to test negative for COVID-19 before flying. Meanwhile, cases of coronavirus are hitting new records in the US. The airlines themselves admit that nothing they can do will bring back passengers until the pandemic improves.
We're not really concerned about the expenses because the most important thing to us is restoring the customer's confidence and knowing that until customers get confident in the flying process, they're not going to come back. And we're going to have to spend money to get them in that place to do so.
When a regular traveler arrives in the US, they're required to declare any food items they're bringing in, or face up to a $1,000 fine for the first offense. These items aren't taken because agents want to eat your yummy Spanish ham or Caribbean mangoes. It's because agents are responsible for protecting American agriculture from any foreign pests or diseases that could affect our livestock or crops. And that's where agricultural specialists like Ginger come in.
Everything gets destroyed. To protect against that pest risk, we are protecting the country's agricultural interests. We're protecting against bioterrorism, where someone could intentionally try to bring in items to wreak havoc in this country.
Foreign bugs hitchhiking in luggage have wreaked havoc in the US before. Florida's orange and grapefruit growers lost $2.9 billion from 2007 to 2014, thanks to the Asian citrus psyllid. And since being introduced into the US in the 90s, the Asian longhorn beetle has ravaged hardwood trees. Eradication efforts between 1997 and 2010 cost more than $373 million.
In our country, we go into the grocery store and the food is always there. We don't have to look at it for holes or check if it's got some disease on it. It always looks great. So we get kind of spoiled, and we don't really understand the importance of protecting that.
So it's crucial that even a single stowaway orange is found and confiscated. But with 34 million annual international passengers to and from JFK, going through each of those bags can seem pretty impossible. For humans, that is. Luckily, they've got a little help from the Beagle Brigade. This four-legged officer is Biscuit, and like Spike, Biscuit is trained in passive response. But Biscuit's trained to sniff out food, rather than drugs.
They actually learn. They start out with 5 target odors, and then over the years he'll expand, and they retire with sometimes like 150 odors that they know.
And Biscuit's pretty good at sniffing. These beagles have an estimated 90% accuracy rate.
Watching your dog sit on 3 grapes in a Samsonite hard-side suitcase is just incredible. Scientists say their nose is 1,000 times stronger than ours, and they prove it every single day.
Once Biscuit sniffs out an item, the passenger in question and their bags go to Ginger, who will x-ray and search the luggage.
Okay, these are both your bags, correct? Okay. Did you pack everything yourselves? You pack your bags yourself? Okay.
Ginger unzips the bag and searches each one by hand. And if she finds something that's not allowed, it's seized and held in temporary bins.
This is very common from that region. Once you open it all up, you have grape leaves. These are horse meat sausages. This is another very good example of what we get very frequently, especially in the springtime. This is a plant that they're planning on bringing here to grow. So anything for propagation has additional in-tray requirements. So this is 2 families worth from one flight.
JFK disposes of the contraband food in one of 2 ways, the grinder or the incinerator. Ginger will bag up the seized items and label them based on their final destination.
So we're gonna go walk this bin, nice and full from those 2 passengers, down to our contraband room.
This is the room where illicit food meets its end.
This is our grinding machine. This is what we'll generally use for fruits, vegetables, that kind of commodities. It is called the Muffin Monster.
But before Ginger can send a piece of fruit down the Muffin Monster, she cuts it open, squishes it, and inspects it. She's looking for evidence of diseases, insertion points for insects, and exit points for larvae. If she finds a little bug,
like this one, she neutralizes the pest risk and sends it to the U.S. Department of Agriculture for further investigation. Now it's back to the muffin monster. 120 pounds of food are grinded up each day from arriving international passengers. Avocados, mangoes, and citrus are among the most common fruits that end up in the grinder.
We do get messy. It's important to dispose of it properly. I love to eat as much as everybody else. I am a big fan of food, but I know the importance of making sure that what we seized because of established risks is disposed of properly to prevent it from causing problems.
So the next time you've got an orange tucked into your luggage, declare it and let experts like Ginger decide if it's admissible. And leave the Serrano ham in Spain, because Biscuit will find it.
This building it's almost living and breathing.
Every day, American Airlines loads up 715,000 pounds of cargo onto planes. And Dallas-Fort Worth is home to the airline's largest cargo operation. Live animals, food, PPE, and Legos end up on flights headed as far as Shanghai or Frankfurt. But getting the right cargo on the right plane in time for takeoff is no easy task. It takes a team of 220 people to haul and fit thousands of pounds of freight into planes.
It's 100 miles an hour. There's no ramp up. Immediately, you're drinking from a fire hose.
That's Mark. He took us inside American's 171,000 square foot cargo facility to see how crews keep cargo flying, even as COVID-19 halts air traffic around the globe. To keep moving freight, American Airlines launched cargo-only routes for the first time in 36 years. In 2020, the airline sent out 5,000 cargo-only flights across 39 new routes. The massive cargo facility in Dallas is located here at the airport. It's broken down into inbound cargo here and outbound cargo here.
This is where the magic happens.
The outbound center handles shipments from trucks that will then be loaded onto planes. Some trucks come from as far as Guadalajara and Mexico City.
This is the drop-off dock back in the back, and so that's where the shipments will come in.
Goods are unloaded and go right into the tracking system.
That way the load planners can see how much freight we're planning for a departure. There's an army of forklifts, and we'll try to keep you safe while you're here. A lot of PPE, personal protective equipment lately, ventilators, latex gloves, candy, Laffy Taffy. But this is from Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Just like passengers and their bags go through airport security, so does cargo.
They come over here and they go through screening. Every piece of cargo gets screened.
Workers are looking for anything that doesn't belong. Once everything is screened, the goods are moved to their designated locations in the warehouse. Even animals. In 2019, American moved 40,000 animals.
It's not unusual to see 100 live animals a day. We have one that's awaiting anxiously for his owner to pick him up. Little Joey.
Fruits, veggies, herbs, and flowers head over to one of these 3 fridges.
This is our perishable store. Most of our fresh fruits and vegetables come from Mexico or Central America, sometimes from South America. Next week we have about 20,000 pounds of blackberries going to London.
This area is for human remains.
We take care of our veterans when they're fallen soldiers that are very meaningful that we do ship.
And finally, any oversized cargo heads to this section. A few hours before departure time, the cargo is tugged to a build station.
So here we're seeing that they're building up freight for one of our outbound departures onto a PMC.
Workers build up cargo on these aluminum pallets called PMCs.
Using the expertise that he's developed over time, he's looking at each shipment and deciding what's the most efficient way that I can build this.
But they can't build the freight any taller than 65 inches, so it can still fit through the airplane door.
You never know if it's going to be raining in London when you get there, so we protect everything from the elements by wrapping it in plastic. So they'll have plastic on the bottom, they'll put plastic over the top, wrap those two together, and then put the cargo net over it to restrain everything.
If it's food, flowers, or herbs, they're loaded into temperature-controlled containers.
They have batteries that maintain the temperature inside the unit. It's like shipping a refrigerator.
These bundles of cargo, once built, are called unit load devices, or ULDs. Each ULD goes to be weighed. A single container can't be over 3,500 pounds, but the pallets can hold even more weight. While it depends on weather, route, and if passengers are on board, a Boeing 777-300 can carry up to 125,000 pounds of cargo. Any more and the plane could struggle to take off. So it takes a lot of knowledge of the weight and dimensions of every plane to get this right.
A lot of expertise in the building. Many of these guys have 40 years or more.
Finally, the ULDs are loaded onto tugs and driven out to the plane.
So this is what we call the backyard. This is where we stage wide-body cargo that's ready to go to the aircraft. And so all of these lanes have a letter. In our system, we can see what lane they're in so that the drivers know what to go get and what to take to the aircraft. This is the London departure that we were watching them build the freight for earlier today. It's all right there, about to be loaded.
On this Boeing 787, workers have 3 doors they can load cargo through. The front and aft, or back doors, are the biggest. The cargo is brought up to the height of the plane using a lift. The lift and the plane have rollers on the floor to easily move the heavy load.
You can throw the rollers from a control panel over here on the side of the aircraft.
This is the hard part. It's like a game of Tetris, trying to figure out what combinations of containers and pallets will fit snugly. But a plan helps. Teams figure out where each ULD should go to best use the space and balance out the weight on the plane. After everything's in the right place,
there's floor locks that come up and they keep the cargo from shifting.
Through the smaller door in the back,
which we call the aft bulk,
workers load any bulk cargo. That's anything that's not built into a container or onto a pallet.
That's typically where we're going to put live animals or really anything that is connecting to this flight.
And all this has to happen quickly.
Consumers' expectations as far as delivery times continue to increase, right? We want our goods faster.
On average, workers have about an hour to load and lock all the ULDs and any freeloaded cargo before the plane takes off. And this whole process happens in reverse for incoming planes carrying cargo.
The freight's off the aircraft, our runner will come and pick it up and take it back to our cargo facility. From there, it goes through our breakdown process where we take it all off of the PMCs and separate it based on airway bill number. And then from there, we stage it in one of those locations that we saw earlier so that whenever the customer arrives, we can load it on their vehicle. And we have 4 hours from the time the aircraft locks in until it's got to be ready for the customers to pick up.
In 2019, American Airlines cargo moved 122 million pounds of freight every day, but coronavirus made it harder. In 2020, the airline averaged only 101 million pounds daily. When passenger volume dropped 75% in April, the airline cut passenger routes that usually carry cargo. Fewer routes also meant fewer direct flights. That led to a lot more cargo connecting through Dallas.
Might have originated in Asia or Europe, and is passing on to Latin America. And that introduces a lot of additional complexity. You have to physically handle the freight a lot more often.
But cargo still needs to be moved, even if the world has stopped traveling.
We live in a globalized world where not every country produces everything they need. From cell phones to laptops to clothes to food relies on air cargo transportation.
But even with the introduction of cargo-only flights, the airline has still lost billions.
It's a drop in the ocean, but in no way does the additional cargo revenue that we're generating offset the 75% drop in passenger revenues that we've been seeing this year. No big surprise, we're going to post losses next year.
So until passenger traffic returns to normal, American plans to continue flying and packing these cargo-only flights.
The goal, obviously, ultimately, hopefully quickly, is for those aircraft to return to passenger service.
Probably a theme going into next year will be that everything's fluid and we have to remain flexible.
If a plane gets sick, it might end up here, at Delta Technical Operations in Atlanta. At nearly 3 million square feet, it's the biggest aircraft repair shop in North America. Here, mechanics, technicians, and engineers fix nearly 1,000 planes a year, with all kinds of issues, from a loose screw to an engine failure. But it takes a lot more than elbow grease to get a plane back in the air. This is a bustling and expensive 24-hour operation.
The work never stops because the planes never stop.
That's Cedric. Back in February, before COVID-19 was declared a pandemic, he took us behind the scenes of Delta's massive airplane hospital.
Let me put my bump cap on. I look like somebody.
Delta Tech Ops is a maintenance, repair, and overhaul, or MRO business.
We do everything that you see on that aircraft. We have component maintenance, engine maintenance, and aircraft maintenance.
6,000 technicians can fix every inch of pretty much any commercial jet on the planet, from 150 other airlines, government organizations, and even military branches.
Our job is basically just to maintain the aircraft, keep them safe.
An aircraft ends up here if it's scheduled for maintenance or if something is wrong. And one of the biggest issues the team deals with is engine repairs. When that happens, there's $32 million on the line.
First, a plane is grounded and then tugged into this giant hangar.
We can have 6 wide bodies and 6 narrow bodies in simultaneously. So that's a lot of work that can be done in here at the same time.
Technicians run a diagnosis for an engine problem. If they determine it needs fixing, it heads to the engine shop. This division of Tech Ops started in 1961, at the beginning of the jet age. Today, engine repair is the most expensive section of Tech Ops, with $100 million in new facilities, just in the last 2 years.
So the engines come into our shop and we take the engines apart completely. We inspect the parts, and anything that we find wrong with them, we are able to repair those things before putting them back into the engine. These are very high value parts, so repairing them is the most economical way to keep our engines flying.
Before parts can be fixed up, they get a chemical bath.
So most of the engine parts are cleaned in this area. If there's any contaminants on the blades or any of the parts of the aircraft, you want to make sure that's removed so you can get maximum performance of the engine because of the airflow. Yeah, I used to work back here many years ago. Yeah? I started back here.
Next, the engine heads to one of 7 bays in the engine shop.
What's going on? How you doing? Why's everybody got a smile on their face? That's what I want to know. Y'all act like y'all happy. How you doing?
Here, FAA licensed technicians work on and reassemble the engine.
We have approximately 900 engines a year come through for various levels of maintenance.
Those cover 14 different kinds of engines.
I want to show everybody a BR715 engine. So this engine in particular is undergoing light maintenance where it doesn't get fully disassembled.
Light maintenance takes anywhere from 15 to 35 days. Heavy maintenance, on the other hand,
that's where we'd fully disassemble the engine, go into the internal areas of the engine, and basically refurbish the entire components associated with the engine.
That can take over 2 months.
2,000 piece parts that have to be individually inspected and maintained. This engine is flying approximately 5 times a day. An engine remains on wing from anywhere from a few years to some of our engine types as many as 7, 8, or 9 years. So we want to take the opportunity while they're here to do everything that we can to ensure that they're reliable for the fleet.
If an engine can stay in the air longer, it saves Delta and its customers money. Remember, these things are expensive, and so are all the parts that go into them. This part costs $12,000.
And there's 80 of them.
Add in the price of the surrounding parts and...
We're looking at about $2.2 million sitting on the table. This is the highest technology portion of the engine. These blades operate at very high temperatures and very high stresses.
These fan blades,
out of the latest generation Rolls-Royce Trent engines,
are made of precious metals and alloys and cost hundreds of thousands of dollars each.
So a modern jet engine is worth several $1 million. The maintenance of those is very, very important to maintaining the value of that asset.
Only about 20% of all the engines fixed here are Deltas. The rest are for customers.
That's probably UPS right there. We have Azure, Gold, Brazil, and Virgin Australia engines.
Repairing all these flying beasts takes a lot of skill and caution.
Anything can kill you that we touch. Everything is stronger than us. Everything is heavier than us. You have to have your head in the game.
You're looking at a 13,000-pound engine.
Lifting something that heavy, it requires a lot of safety, coordination, teamwork, and attention to detail.
But an engine that runs smoothly is just as important. There's no pulling over on the side of the road if there's a problem. They're 40,000 feet in the air, so nothing can go wrong.
But it's an example of the precision and the very close tolerances that everything has to be built to because of how fast it all spins and how hot it all gets.
We want you to get to your destination safely, and that's what this is all about.
To keep track of the thousands of repairs and checks, technicians record every step of the disassembly, assembly, and inspection process on work cards. They also rely on fancy gear, from the laser welding equipment to the turbine grinder.
That precision is necessary to ensure the efficiency of the engine when we return it to service.
All this new equipment also means Delta can repair some of the most technologically advanced commercial engines in the world. That happens out in the newer facility, opened in 2018. Once technicians have restored all the parts, they converge back into one of the engine bays. Here they flip the engine vertically and start reassembling it.
The core engine is complete at this point, and they're putting on all of those accessories and harnesses and piping on the outside of the engine.
But before an engine can go back on a wing, there's one more step: quality testing. That happens at the world's largest engine test cell. A short drive, or a bike ride, from the engine shops.
You don't want to encounter problems while you're installing an engine on wing, so it comes to us and we make sure everything's passed off and clear. This part of the building is where the engines come in. We install and rig the engine, so basically we put the test equipment on the engine and get it ready for it to run. And then this part of the engine is your actual test chambers.
The test chamber is the newest addition to TechOps, and where the engines are test run, it can handle 150,000 pounds of thrust, even though no engine actually has that kind of power. Engineers run tests 24/7, monitoring engine performance from the control room.
The reason we need 24/7 is because of the production coming out of the shops. So I can have 3 engines prepped and ready, but I got 1 test chamber. So, we want to keep that test chamber running and keep it moving. So you want to get it in there, get it run, get it back out so we can move our next engine in.
Once Ken's team signs off on the new engine, it's carted back to the hangar, secured on the wing, and tugged out for takeoff.
As you see, there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes at the maintenance program. We're always constantly trying to work to make sure we're safe, effective, and proficient in what we do. That means once we get an aircraft in here, we're trying to make sure that we take care of everything that we need to take care of while it's down, so it can get out and fly. And when it comes back, we'll do it all over again.